Well, unfortunately, the Lakers will begin their season with a loss, getting beat by Golden State 109 to 119. And although there are definitely plenty of good things to point to with them, obviously Luka Doncic for one, dropping a near 43-point triple-double, 43 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and going 17 of 27 from the field, there are definitely more bad things to point to, unfortunately. Everyone from Rui Hachimura not playing that well, Gabe Vincent not playing that well, their bench not looking that great apart from Marcus Smart, who, although is very sporadic on the court, both offensively and defensively, probably was one of their few bright spots to point to. But I can't say the same thing about Deandre Ayton. You know, from the stats, the numbers don't actually look that bad with him. Dropping 10 points, grabbing 6 rebounds, having 1 block, even being a very efficient 71.4% from the field, 5 of 7. But if you actually watch the game and really watch Deandre Ayton play, then you are probably very disappointed. In fact, you're probably yelling at him through your screen for a large majority of the game. Again, he might have been very efficient and the numbers weren't that bad for him, but he simply looked way too hesitant and a little bit lackluster on both ends of the court. Defensively, getting lost at times and not being quick enough to contest shots, and that left guys like Steph Curry open, many of the Golden State's role players open, and accounting for them shooting 42.5%, Ayton definitely was a part of that. Then offensively, the guy simply was like lagging out there. He'd catch the ball in the post and then hesitate for 2 to 3 seconds, throw up a pump fake and then bring the ball down and not know what to do with it. Looking completely lost out there at times, and it really was very confusing. After he looked very put together and very motivated throughout preseason, this was definitely a little bit of a step back for him. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's time to give up on him, not time to trade Deandre Ayton or anything like that, but it definitely was a little bit of a lackluster performance from Ayton, especially compared to preseason. I mean, throughout preseason, he looked much more aggressive, much more confident, and that he simply knew what to do within their game plan, both offensively and defensively too, which I can't say the same thing for him tonight. Like I referred to, he really was uncoordinated offensively, like he didn't know what to do with the ball in his hands, and that became a major problem for them. When their offense fell flat in the third quarter, when Austin Reeves got in foul trouble and they tried to run part of their offense through Deandre Ayton, he simply could not produce for them. You know, he really couldn't do anything with the ball. Anytime they dumped it off to him, he kind of reflected a Kwame Brown 2.0, something that I've seen some Laker fans calling him on Twitter, and unfortunately I kind of do agree with it, that he didn't know what to do with the ball, that he had no post move to speak of, and that he may have lost his memory from earlier in his NBA career. That was obviously not good to see with Deandre Ayton. So again, definitely don't think that's the end for him and that it's time to write him off or anywhere close to it, but it was a disappointing regular season debut with Deandre Ayton in the purple and gold. However, while I know it might be impossible as a Laker fan, especially if you're on Twitter and tend to be influenced by Twitter, really do try to be patient here. Not only with Deandre Ayton, but really the entire team too. It's only one game after all, and while it wasn't a great performance with them, nor for Deandre Ayton, it definitely could have been worse. Definitely some good things to point to, whether it be Luka Doncic, their defense at times in the court. Yes, at times, definitely not the entire game, but there were good things to point to, albeit a ton of stuff they have to clean up. And with that in mind here, I'll let you hear about it from JJ Redick, Deandre Ayton, and the rest of the team about their performance in Game 1 and what they do have to clean up going forward.
What did you see in the third quarter to kind of start things when Golden State made a little bit of a push? And did you feel like that was a pivotal part of it, or did you think it was more of an overall trend for the game?
The trend I see is that we continue to be a terrible third quarter team to start. That was last year. That was the preseason. Got to rethink some things, and it's a two-way thing with the guys. What do they need at halftime to make sure they're ready to play? They're not ready to play to start the third quarter.
JJ, pregame you mentioned discipline as something that needs to be there, specifically when it came to playing their post splits. Just overall, in a macro sense, how would you assess the team's discipline tonight?
Pretty good, actually. Outside of a few buckets there in the third quarter, pretty good.
JJ, Luka's workload was so heavy. How do you try to get other guys to get more involved and help out with what you guys have going on out there?
Every game is different. I'm not concerned about that.
JJ, you talked about, when it comes defensively, about the level of connection and effort it's going to take from everybody. Where's the connection on the offensive end right now, and how much of sort of this being the early stages would you attribute the turnovers to, and guys just maybe not being in the right places or the places people expect?
Yeah, I think that's more it. You know, again, trying to throw a lob pass, fit in a lob pass to DA, and it ends up being a turnover. I think that's going to happen to any team, to any two-man partnership, whether you've got continuity. That happens sometimes. I think it's mostly self-inflicted, and I think if you look at this game, like a microcosm of this game was we did enough good things to put ourselves in a position to win for most of the game, and that when we didn't do those things, they were self-inflicted.
You touched on it.
They were self-inflicted. So
Yeah.
That's not being organized in early offense. That's having the wrong guy bring it up. That's we knew they were blitzing and stack. That's supposed to be stack 2. The guy stays. Now there's no outlet for the passer. Those are not sprinting back. We make a run. We got 2 guys back. Buddy Hield gets a wide open 3 for some reason on a full court pass. Those are self-inflicted things. So that's not anything Golden State did to us.
The pregame you mentioned kind of how the team has gone through this whole process without LeBron, like camp has been without LeBron. You're going to solve these problems in the immediacy with the issues that are happening with this roster. At some point, you're going to get another huge piece back. Do you allow yourself any brain power thinking about how LeBron fits in with what this group is now, or can you not afford to do that?
It's hard to forget about LeBron. The reality is when you're focused on the group that you have, you got to make that group work. So it's sometimes you can just be like, oh my God, we're going to get LeBron back at some point. Like it's awesome, but you are focused. I'll be honest with you. I did have one moment in that first half when we had a few possessions, we couldn't score against the zone. I'm like, it'd be great to have LeBron just to throw it to at the high post.
Just sort of look down there, 40,000 points.
Yeah.
Can you kind of split the self-inflicted wounds that come from just we have better habits than this, we know how to play, versus these are the growing pains of some of the new pieces coming together and understanding the intricacies of the offense and understanding players' tendencies and what guys like, where they're going to be?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. I think that to me that shows up more on defense. When I said pregame, you got to be really disciplined. It's like the times to Kobe's question, the times you make your own thing up. Steph Curry gets a back cut for a layup. Gary Payton slips and gets a dunk. We don't read a small pick and roll, and I wasn't on the floor. I don't know what the call is, and Jimmy turns the corner, they get a layup. So there's going to be growing pains with that, I think, early in the season, and hopefully it's not long. But it's more organization than it is like knowing guys' tendencies. I think that's where the offense struggles.
JJ, LeBron was so important for you guys, like defensively last year, just calling out plays, sort of quarterbacking things. Who's stepping into that role, or at least I don't know if it's just you and Greg yelling all the time, or is it like who was on the court in that role?
Yeah, no, I think Da and Marcus have done a really nice job. Gabe, I know Luka and AR are being more vocal as well. But I would say right now it's Da, Marcus, Da, Marcus, and Gabe.
With the following questions that when LeBron's not there, how do you utilize Rui in this team and this play?
So ask it again. I'm sorry.
How do you use Rui Hachimura utilizing it when LeBron's not in the team? How do you use him? What kind of plan do you have for Rui?
Same plan as always. Yeah, we're not going to ask a guy to change their role because someone's out of the lineup. He's got to stick to doing what he does best.